Hey, it's Greg at Best Choice Trailers. Today we've got a Gooseneck Short Track Pro Series I-beam tilt. Had a few of these come in. First one we've got a chance to take pictures and videos and whatnot of. Awesome setup. If you're loading a skid steer with an attachment or similar, this is the ticket. So up front we've got, of course, a Gooseneck 2 5/16 inch coupler, spring loaded. It's got adjustability. You've got your I-beam neck, gusseted out, of course, safety chains, and then you've got, let's see where the end of this guy is. You've got a 7-pin plug, RV blade style, standard on all pickup trucks nowadays. Spare tire mount up in the neck, standard. Another thing that is pretty cool on this, you've got basically a chain tray built in up top above the toolbox. It's already got an oversized toolbox. You got a removable winch mount, and then you've also got a winch mount permanent up top as well. It's got drain holes in it. Pretty slick setup. Then below it you've got a toolbox as well. It's got a light, of course, full width. It's got a lock on it. 2-speed jacks standard. This is also dual jacks, not just one. So 2-speed gearbox. Got some reinforcement going from your vertical beams to your horizontal. Now again, this is the new Pro Series I-beam. This used to be a tube and channel, be a channel tongue, channel frame, and tube bed frame. They've replaced that with I-beam. Industry's moved a little bit to I-beam. Still have more channel than beam. This makes a lot of sense on 8,000 pound axles, the I-beam. You can do it on 7s. It's a little bit heavier than the channel. So on a gooseneck where you got heavier duty applications, I'll say it makes more sense maybe than a bumper pull. Bumper pull I-beam's a little heavy for 7K axles. Kind of bread and butter would be the 8,000 pound axles on it. We've got a 4-foot stationary. We've got an 18-foot tilt. Haven't had a tape measure on one of these yet, but historically, Short Track's done about a 33-inch knife edge, and typically they only count 24 inches. You end up on the old style an extra roughly 9-10 inches. That looks to be the same exact tail pretty much, so I'm assuming same thing. So your tilt's probably going to be more like 18.9, not just 18 foot. Got to watch on tilts. Everybody does them a little different. Some do an 18-inch knife edge and they don't count any. Some count the whole knife edge. That's one place in this industry where everybody's a little bit different. Stake pocket tie downs. We've also got 4-inch D-rings at the midpoint and at the front of the tilt bed itself. I don't know, this tilt you can do with one hand. It's super easy to use. Just normally you'd use 2 hands, but basically pull this guy up and then pick that guy up. So you can do it with one hand and a foot. Now the relief valve on this I didn't toy with. It does look like it's open. So this is something different than what I call the old style. They used to not have this. So basically this is a flow control valve, and there's different ways you can do it. This uses 2 cylinders, so I'll pick it up and show you what that looks like. Of all the trailers in the industry I've seen, that is probably one of the sweetest stop catches you'll see. So it just cushions right down. I did it a second ago and it actually cushioned down, but I don't know, it needs broken a little bit, or I need to adjust that flow valve, just twist that handle on it. But one of the things different between this and the last series of this, first of all, those notches for your bullet LED lights weren't there. Banjo eyes for additional tie downs at the rear for chain weren't there. The old style, you had basically 82 inches, give or take, fender to fender, but you had about a 76-inch bed, give or take, because it's nestled. You had basically a channel frame and a nestled bed frame. This actually angles out, so you get probably in the neighborhood of 79, 80 inches of width. Your tire is going to be on, so for 99% of people's applications, Whether that's 76 or 79 for most doesn't really matter a whole lot. But again, that is a noticeable difference where you get about 3 more inches of loading width, maybe 4. It's got 235/80 R16 10-ply radial tires, standard equipment. It's on a silver wagon wheel. This does have the newer style forward self-adjusting brakes. It's also got the Easy Lube hubs, so you pull that cap and do your own bearing maintenance. These are also nitrogen-filled tires. Nitrogen-filled are nice because you're not going to get that moisture inside the tire. Don't have near as much dry rot issues with radials as we saw in bias tires years ago, but it still takes some moisture out of that tire and makes it last a little bit longer. You got a slipper spring suspension, which is fairly normal on 7K axle trailers, but it's also got a Zert on that slipper spring, just something you don't always see. They call that a wet bolt kit. You got a reinforcement on the fender to give some extra rigidity to that fender. So again, this is how they're getting that extra width coming out. Let me zoom in. So basically you've got a 2-cylinder application. Basically it's going to transfer fluid from one to the other, and then the flow control valve is going to restrict that flow. Got a nice heavy duty support on your fender. I'm going to go ahead and ride this down. I want to show you how slick this is, because this is, again, probably the best setup I've seen. So basically it just comes down, you're ready to go. So pretty slick. I'm not gonna say there's not other cool ones out there, but I've not seen anything, I'll say, remotely close to this price range that functions as good as that. Grease Zerts for your toolbox in the back side. Again, your removable winch plate. You've got a Fairlead roller set up, built in. You've got your holes, and then you got a chain tray for whatever you want in your spare tire mount. Unit like this is going to weigh in at about 4,000 pounds empty. They're putting 15.4 GVW. Basically, they're counting in 1,400 pound of tongue weight. Reality is you're going to get more than 1,400. To the pin, typically we see closer to, I'll say 22% is normal. About 3,000 pounds on an average load. So depending on whose numbers you want to use, 15.4 GVW minus 4 empties, 11.4 payload. I'm going to say the reality is you go across scales, you're going to be more like 14,000 times 1.22 is going to be about 17, minus 4 empties about 13. Then you have to take some weight off because you're not going to be perfectly balanced on your 2 axles. But again, most guys, if you're going to put more than 11.4 on this anyway, you probably need to be taking a serious look at the 8,000 pound axle version of this, which is really, I'll say, ideal for this setup anyway. But again, for guys that have maybe say an SVL 75 Kubota skid steer, I think they weigh about 10.2, throw a bucket on that, they're another 600-700 pounds. Ideal setup for that. You go any bigger than that, you really need the 8K axle version of this. If you have this is, again, 18 plus 4, I think I mentioned that earlier. Probably going to be more like 23 overall length on your deck, and then tip to tail with your goose, you're about another 8.5 foot. Going to be, 31 foot, 31.5 feet. It says available in 8Ks. You can also get it in super single 10Ks. We keep those in stock as well. You can get it in a 16 plus 4 or an 18 plus 4. General into gooses, we like the 18 plus 4. Seems to be the right size. If you have any questions on this or any of our other trailers, feel free to give us a ring at 717-220-4220, or you can visit us on the web at bestchoicetrailers.com. Thanks for looking.